All right, let's talk about Breece Hall. I mean, what a start this guy has been off to. He's been fantastic for the Jets. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of drafting running backs that high. I don't like drafting a running back with a top 50 pick, especially with a rebuilding team. But he's had a big impact right away. And maybe part of why they went out and got him was they didn't feel like they're rebuilding. They felt like they're competitive right away, and they've been competitive. They have been playing well. I also feel like, helping Zach Wilson develop by having a consistent running game, maybe that's part of why they drafted him as well, which makes sense. Put Wilson in a position to succeed. That's smart football. They've been making an effort to put him in position to succeed. Hasn't always worked out every time, but they have been making an effort. Let's talk about Breece Hall, though, and what he's doing well for the New York Jets. Let's start with this play. It's going to be a run to the right side. You see those 4 blocks are kind of the key ones here. And look, right when this play begins, you're going to see that there's a gap, but it's not very big, right? And this is where, I heard someone compare Breece Hall to Le'Veon Bell in the, someone on the commentators calling the game. And I thought that was kind of an interesting comparison, and I actually don't disagree with it. It's funny, right? Because Le'Veon Bell famously went to the Jets, got paid big money, and did not perform very well. But, I do kind of understand the comparison because I think that a lot of, lesser running backs would have just ran straight into somebody at this point. I mean, as a Tampa Bay fan, I can promise you Leonard Fournette would be currently directly running into his own offensive lineman right now. That's what a lot of running backs, I think, would do. But Breece Hall is just, again, he has a good sense of timing in football. Watching just that little hesitation before getting through, that allows him to pick up a ton more yards on that play. They picked up probably 5 extra yards just from that little hesitation. And that's what you want from a running back, right? Is maximizing the value that the offensive line gave you by blocking. Everyone brings up the offensive line when it comes to running games, and rightfully so. That is the most important thing in the running game. I guess some people still bring up running backs, but, I think most people would say, no, the offensive line is the most important factor there, and it is, but a running back can still absolutely have a huge impact on how much the running game is effective. But then going over here, I want to be clear, it is a conscious decision. It's not like he's just slow in getting through the gaps, because then there are situations like this, where the run's going to be to the left side of the screen. Again, I've highlighted 4 blocks that are going to kind of be the most important ones here. Hall is going to eventually take the ball, and you see that this time there is a much bigger gap. So the last time it was kind of a small gap. Okay, gotta be patient and let it develop. Now there's a huge gap going on. However, watch Hall just be able to, explode through it, and he is able to pick up a decent chunk of yards right there. So, it's good stuff from Hall. It's not just like he has a style where he is patient all the time. Like, no, he will at times explode through a hole if that's what he feels like he should do, and that's what he felt like he should do on that play. Like, this plays another, I think, a very fun example of what he can do effectively, where you have, I'm going to highlight Quay Walker, who, Quay Walker, someone who I was not a huge fan of coming out of college. I did not like him as a first-round pick, and part of why is he's someone who is a great athlete, but isn't necessarily a great football player right now. However, if he does pick the right running lane, he can be very effective. And so right when this play begins, you see Quay Walker, I think he does pick a pretty good lane, and he does take a pretty good, decent angle for Breece Hall. And I think in a lot of scenarios, this is, if you're a Packers fan, you're saying, okay, well, this is where Quay Walker should come through, right? Okay, maybe he isn't the best in certain other areas, but this is where he can thrive, is when he's, just has to track down a running back. The difference, though, is he's not tracking down a running back. He's tracking down Breece Hall, who's a tough guy to track down. And watch Breece Hall really just run by Walker and able to pick up that first down. I mean, again, that's just athleticism beating someone who was drafted purely for athleticism. Not because he's a great player, but because of athleticism. And Breece Hall is beating that guy. So it kind of goes to show what Breece Hall can bring to the table. Also, why Quay Walker isn't that good. But that's a conversation for another day, I think. Something like this is another very fascinating scenario. First off, just an interesting way that Breece Hall is getting the ball here, where he's lined up as a tight end, basically, but he's going to be running sort of a jet sweep motion to get the handoff. So kind of just, an interesting scenario. Look, Zach Wilson takes a snap, fakes pitch back, and then eventually gives it to Hall, who is in an odd spot right here. So it looks like the blocking concept didn't really work the way that it was intended. I'm not exactly sure what was supposed to happen here. I'm really not, because this is a unique play. I don't see this very often, and it doesn't seem to be going correctly. But you're in a situation right now where, you have some open field in front of you, but there's also Green Bay players entirely in front of you. But watch him just run by everybody. Watch just, again, just explosiveness where on a dime he's able to get by everyone, even breaks a tackle and gets into the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, that's amazing. That was a broken play that he turned into a touchdown, and a big touchdown at that. I mean, this is the, if you want to talk about running backs don't matter, listen, I definitely am a believer in running backs are overrated and their value isn't as important as some people believe it to be, but this is how running backs do matter, right? You put an average running back there, he's not making that play. You put, someone else, just a normal, okay running back in there, someone you drafted in round 7 of this year, they're not making that play. So this is the value of a running back. At the end of the day, there are going to be situations like this in football, and having the ball in a talented player's hands can only help. Finally, one last play. So this time it's going to be, you see the blocking concept on your screen. That's where they're blocking. Going to be a run to the right here. And you notice all the way to the right side of the screen, there is Eric Stokes, who is the closest unblocked man. So that's really the main thing to watch. Don't look at the, don't worry about the actual, blocking concept so much. It's mostly just Eric Stokes is the closest unblocked guy on this play. Look at how Zach Wilson is going to give the ball to Breece Hall. And you see Stokes doing a good job, I think, of filling up his gap well to where, at this point, it seems like it'd be a tough spot for Breece Hall to get too many yards. However, Breece Hall just casually runs by him and is able to still pick up a big gain. So again, these are the things that he's doing. The offensive line is giving him a decent amount of yards, and then he's taking advantage and getting even more yards. So he's just been someone who's been a very effective running back. And listen, again, the debate as to whether or not you should draft a running back in round 2 or not is an interesting debate to have. But what's fascinating is, what I think is worth mentioning is, Breece Hall has been who the Jets wanted him to be. Again, I just think it's good stuff from Breece Hall. I think he is someone who, I think that he's lived up to his draft hype, right? He's been the guy, he's been exactly who I thought he would be. He's been exactly who the Jets were hoping he would be when they drafted him, of someone who can be a sort of a running back who can do several different things, who can make splash plays, but can also do the little things and consistently get wins at the running back position. This is what he has been able to do, and what he has been able to do effectively, and what I expect him to continue to be able to do effectively. The reality is, I don't think this offense is going to be a great offense unless Zach Wilson plays well, and unless the receiving core plays well. That's just football in 2022. It is a passing league. But, if you have to be a run-heavy team, which I'm assuming they will probably try to be on Sunday, if that's what you're forced to do, well, then having a guy who can be a really good running back, helps out with that. Again, I think typically the way it works is that the only running backs that are like stars anymore is Derrick Henry. Like, he's the one exception. Everyone else, maybe Jonathan Taylor you could throw in, but for everyone else, there's added value. I'm not sure if Breece Hall will get to the Derrick Henry level, but can he be someone who adds value? Yeah, he already is that guy. So, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.